What's up, everybody? I'm Tim.
I'm Chris.
This is Evil Penguin Games. Today, we get to review a brand new Kickstarter game.
Very new. It's very, very new. It's going live pretty soon.
Like now.
Yeah, pretty
Like
soon.
now, in the now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you know.
Was I wrong?
I mean, no.
There you go.
This Kickstarter, this game, is called Exalted Vales by Inkplot. Okay? So this goes off of 5th edition rule set. And basically, it's going to give a whole new region, new area, some different rules, characters, classes, whole toolbox of stuff to do.
Yeah, really, it gives you a whole of just mess of stuff to play around with. Like, just looking, like, even just a cursory glance kind of shows, like, oh, wow, there's a lot of really cool stuff before you even really get to, like, the meat and potatoes of things, and it's really nice.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to be able to playtest 2 archetypes and a brand new class. So a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, there was some cool stuff going on here. We're going to be able to get to all of that. So what I want to say, what game that what it covers. So Exalted Vales is the game. What this is a book. It is going to be a campaign. It is going to give information on the world, the region, all the things we just mentioned. So it's going to give game masters a ton of stuff to work with.
Yeah. And just like I said, looking over it, I was really excited to just run the little like the little one shot they gave us, and it's so fun.
Yeah, the introductory campaign, which you can actually get right off of the Kickstarter page, the Gates of Luson. It is super fun. It's very interesting. It builds a whole bunch of mystery things like that stuff. Yeah. you can do. Now with this book, there are going to be a lot of little quirks I found, like things in the world. What made this different and interesting for me. The first big thing that I had to, I guess we'll say, just get used to or wrap my head around is the manifestations.
Yeah, that took a second. Like, it was like reading it once. It was one of those things where I read it once and was like, wait. And I had to read it again. I was like, that is really cool.
Yeah. So what the manifestations are is it made me think a lot like the Miyazaki movie Spirited Away, or very Asian inspired, in the fact that different things have physical spirits or physical forms that you can interact with. So like there's a river, and that river, it's there in front of you, but there's a physical being in front of you that you can talk to, interact with, or fight.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest. It's some 5th edition players, most 5th edition players will probably try to fight.
I mean, murder hobos beware. That's all I'm saying. Don't anger the sun, because he might fight you.
What's the CR level of the sun? I need to know. I have to know for reasons.
Reasons.
Yeah, you know.
So with all of the manifestations, so that's kind of a crazy concept. The fact that you're going into a new, we'll just say, world here, and the fact that you could go to a forest and you might have to fight the forest.
Right.
Like,
you have
the actual physical,
like the living embodiment of that, like, forest spirit. And it's a really cool and intriguing way to like, you know, wrap that kind of stuff into your story and things like that. Like, we've all probably seen RPG stories that are like, oh, you know, like the forest is dying, like, oh, there's an evil force hurting it. It's like, well, now the forest can literally be dying. Like, you can find the forest spirit who is, like, you know, has been afflicted with a disease or something like that. Like, that really just kind of throws a better way to kind of tackle that. Like, instead of that non-corporeal, like, oh, you know, the ocean's, you know, sick.
Yeah.
And the ocean's sick. Like, now the ocean's sick or has been stabbed.
Now the ocean can tell you he's sick.
Right, yeah. Ow. Sick. I don't know why I said
The other, so the other crazy thing about this region too is that you cannot dream.
Yeah, this was a really, really cool one that I liked. That there's this whole sect of people called the Dream Weavers who have almost made a business out of selling dreams. They weave stories into literal tapestries that are then given out across this area. That there's a lot of really cool concepts behind it. That there's only 3 ways to dream. It's with one of the tapestries, going to sleep, listening to a bard, and then do you remember the third one?
There's like different
in the
people
city,
within the villages. Yeah, like they broadcast the dreams out.
Right.
Like,
yeah, and
that's where it gets hive mind like, where entire city blocks and stuff will all have the exact same dream.
Right. So if they all have like a good dream, everyone's like in good spirits the next day. But then you could arrive in the city the day after they have a horrible nightmare. So everyone's somber and like didn't get a lot of sleep. So the whole area just feels kind of like, low and like a little downtrodden. And it's a really, like, I thoroughly love the idea, because especially like with a lot of players that I've played with, long rest is something that they're just like, cool, done, long rest, had it, like we're good. Like now we get new stuff. It's like, yeah. Any of you have a dream tablet or like a thing? Any of you a bard?
Yeah. So here's what the important thing is when why you have to have the dreams, because in Exalted Vales you don't dream if you don't have a dream to be the ability to dream. Then your mind goes to the void, and over time you will go insane.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have a dream, your character will gain effects of slowly going insane.
Yeah, and it's cool because there's every day there's a subsequent not dreaming, you get new and different debuffs and stuff. That's the first one's not the worst thing in the world. It's kind of like exhaustion. You're like, oh, okay, whatever, I'll push through it. And then as they go up, it's just like, yeah, no, you don't really want to do that. So it adds a lot of stuff for if you're wanting to do, like, the first thing I thought, I've always really wanted to do a really tough campaign. Like, oh yeah, because like I said, a lot of my players would just be like, oh, sleep, wake up, full health, I can cast all my spells, I can do everything. And then the first boss, like, for like first enemy, they burn it because they have all their stuff back. And it's really fun. It's like, hey, listen, you can either choose to push forward and possibly exhaust yourself, or you can sleep. But if you sleep, none of you can dream right now. You will go to the void. Like,
I definitely think that the GM could make it go hard mode or or easy, depending on what the game master wants to do.
Right. It could be one of those things where it's like your reagents for spells, where you just like, I buy all my stuff. Okay, that's like 2 silver, whatever. Instead of coming back and it be like, just like, oh, I want to fill up on dream tapestries, or one of those things like, oh, we have a bard, or it's be perfectly fine. So seems like a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that that like aspect of it.
Now, to go forth an adventure in this very interesting and unique land, there are new archetypes. Now, each of the traditional types of classes gets its own archetype from this book. Now, there's one for each of the traditional ones. We were given 2 to play test. So we got the rogue and the barbarian.
Perfectly, you liked one, I liked the other. You instantly went a little bit min-max. I actually went a little bit roleplay.
And that's completely reversed.
Right, exactly. Like,
normally I care way more about story than any type of stats. I accidentally like maximize my character.
Yeah, when we were talking about it, you're like, hey, what if you I'm like, oh no. Where I'm like, well, this other one's really cool, and I like, oh, you can do this. But I mean, we can just like walk around it. But I mean, the two new archetypes are a possessed barbarian, which is just like, which again he absolutely loved, and
so
the
much
other one,
flavor.
oh yeah, like it really adds just so much to it. Like, and then let me pull up, I forgot the name because
the White Death.
Thank you. And they specialize in just the hidden weaponry, like throwing darts like out of nowhere. And like if you know me, one of my favorite movies is John Wick, and it's just the idea of just like, it's like, oh, I can seal a weapon. What do you seal? A pencil. What? Improvised weapon. Like, and it just seems super cool.
Yeah, the cool things with both of those. So the rogue archetype specialized on hiding weapons and throwing them. So why that is hidden is because anybody that has exposed weapons, magical butterflies will flock to them. So it makes being an assassin really hard. So they had to specialize in hiding the weapons, so the butterflies couldn't flock to them.
And that was
And then the cool ability with it is that your sleight of hand score is the number of hidden weapons that you can have and throw.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the like something that I noticed really quickly with this versus getting something out of one of the standard 5e books is there's a lot of story to go along with just one archetype. Like there's usually about half of, like from the two that we saw, there's about half a page worth of just lore to go along with not only it being world building, but now it's world building your character, and it gives the origin of the White Death subclass.
And with the possessed barbarians, it's this area they look to the ancestors for information and wisdom and power. But then sometimes in rare occurrences it can be overflowed, and then if you survive, your ancestors in there with you.
Yeah, and I'm always a huge fan of the if you survive, kind of thing for RPGs. Like, man, we're gonna get some cool stuff if we survive. And building a whole class around that. If you survive, it's just because it's also like it's just a whole lot of fun. Like reading through this, it's honestly, it was just a lot of fun, and that's why we play these games. So like right out of the gate, I'm like, okay, like I am pretty pumped for this. So.
Yeah, the cool thing about the Barbarian is they both have their own quirks, but one of the cool things is you can use Constitution modifier instead of Strength modifiers in attacking.
Yeah.
Because the spirit, buffs you up. And that's where I accidentally maxed.
Immediately min-maxed.
I made a dwarf and the no armor and buffed it up, and I was like, oh, I can hit really hard really quickly.
Yeah, and something that really stands out for everything in this book is it makes combat more engaging. Like, I feel there's one of the things for the Barbarian is if you hit them, you can push them back 5 feet.
Yeah.
And then as that gets better, you have the option of you can then tell one of your party members that they can attack them. They can use their reaction. You can choose a party member to use their reaction to attack the target.
Yeah, and it definitely got the vibe of it being like a more team-oriented combat with each of them had one ability at higher levels to where you could your team member could get a shot in after you made a hit. Just something like that.
Right. It almost felt like if anybody plays Fire Emblem, like that same kind of just that one, you hit them, they move back, then you can choose another person to attack them. It's like working with a party to think 4 or 5 steps ahead to see what's even if you're fighting normal stuff, it brings it back into a new style. It adds a new fun flavor to beginning combat. We've all made level 1, 2 through 3 characters, and it's a lot of goblins and kobolds, and it'd be really fun to try all these new tactics on something that you fought hundreds of times, being able to something that was really cool with the White Death is at a certain level you get advantage on your starting rolls, your initiative rolls, if you don't have any weapons. So like on a a small fight, oh, I'm caught off guard. Well, I have advantage on this. We're okay. Or like it gave a very infiltrate-y feel. Like you can I would really use this subclass a lot for like a not super combat heavy playthrough. Something that's going to give you more like, okay, you have to sneak in there and you might have to fight. Like it's one of those where it's like, oh, I've been caught. Look, I've got nothing in my hands. I'm pretty light. Hey, hi, ha. And like all of a sudden that guy's got 3 darts in his chest. It's like, okay, I got to grab this scroll and get out of here. And which is, again, so my wife is huge on rogues. So I to me, it's like, rogues are rogues. Like they don't interest me a lot. I'm
Mr. Paladin over here.
Exactly. I'm the paladin. I'm the big heavy hitter. Like I like to hit stuff. And just the flavor and everything that was given for these like just new subclasses it really made me want to play this rogue. Like just adding on to like everything that they already do, it just seems super fun. So
all right, so why don't you tell them about the brand new class?
So like I tried to phrase it that's my favorite subclass. My new favorite class though is the Mechanist, and the lore behind it's super cool, where they end up an archaeology team finds like a little orb or a little dodecahedron. Like, what's this do? And they like that spurs off into this whole new class. And it's like it has a lot of customization to it. Like there's things like your main
it made
thing
me go like mad scientist alchemist. That was what I got out of it.
See, and for me, like I immediately thought, because you can reel it back, you can make little dodecahedrons that hold items. Like they hold an item that was 5 by 5 by 10, as long as you can, and like under a ton. Like and like
no
for
living
me,
animals though.
No living, inanimate objects. So they made them good, like inanimate and not living. So I'm not sure what you could do with. But it used to be living, but
with
yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, well, and like thinking about that, it's like, there's this, depending on how I've seen this before. It's like, oh, well, hey, you have to go assassinate this target and bring him back. It's like, okay. And it's like, well, he's, a lot of times in D&D we think of like, oh, it takes a session or a travel session to get from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
But in the world, that's weeks or a month. I don't want to bring that back with me for weeks or a month. Like, just pop them in a dodecahedron, bring them back. But one thing that I really enjoyed was there's ranged combat to it. And it says, like, even one of the examples it gives, which immediately just sparked with me, is it doesn't do damage. You can't throw it at someone and have it like pop open a big thing. It says you can't use it as a direct attack. But the idea of, all of a sudden, getting into combat and throwing down this little, dodecahedron that all of a sudden has, a 5 by 5 by 10 wall. And all of a sudden you now have you have cover at a note. Like your range is now, you're fine. Like you don't have to worry, because a lot of times, range is fun, but range can be squishy. We've all seen the memes like level one wizard, anything, and just down. Just the thought process that you can use that in a like an active combat sort of style, or a buffing style. Like you can be like, oh no, like that guy's gonna get to him next turn. I can throw down, something that'll slow him down. Like you can put, like it says, you can put almost anything into it as long as it's separate from something. You can't just like put it at a wall and take off a 10 by 5 cube of the wall. But I'm thinking, okay, cool. I will just real quick go down to the local mason and be like, hey, can you build me a 5 by 5 by 10 wall? Well, that's not going to do anything. Oh, but it will. It really will. And then boop, boop. And you walk away, have a good day. And that mason's going to be like, what?
So that's one direction you can go with it.
Right.
Now, the other one is where I thought it was cool, because the other direction you can go with the Mechanist is combat-wise. You get to make your own Mechanist weapon that you have to maintain. There are rules with it, but imagine having a big hammer that all of a sudden you swing down, gears start turning in it, arc of flash lightning, and then you're able to do lightning damage on other bad guys around, things like that. You could also do projectile, but like you are able to do these really cool ideas of like
two things immediately came to mind for me, like reading that. One is any gnomish weapon in World of Warcraft. Like they always have gears and stuff. Like something's moving, and there's like they're always spurting steam for some reason. Like even if it's not moving, it's got like a little steam valve that's just letting off steam. Or for any of you anime fans out there, I immediately thought of Big O and its piston arm, just like having a hammer
that's
that you
exactly
hit somebody
how I
with.
kind of imagined it, with like a big hammer.
Yeah. Oh, like, and then at a certain level you can disassemble a magic weapon and reassemble it as a magic weapon for you, so you get all of your like your stat bonuses and things for being that new class, plus being able to mix it into just normal stuff, like, oh, it's a +1 sword, cool, like by default.
And being able to use your intelligence modifier was the other really cool thing.
Yeah, and it's
Bookworm's got some teeth.
Yeah, it's a very interesting class, which I will definitely have to play a ton of over and over again. Be one of those things where it's like, oh, like that old joke is like, oh, my character died. Well, I'm his son. Wait, what? So just take over the mantle, do everything. There were a lot of really cool things where it immediately, like, you read through and it's like, wow, that seems kind of overpowered. And then at the very bottom, it's like, no, okay, that's what makes it balanced. Like, that's like, it's like, oh, you can just craft this weapon. It's like, oh, well, I mean, then what's the point of, oh, you can only have one at a time. And if you don't maintain it within a week, it breaks, because it's a.
I do think they were really good about balancing some of the like. There were some big heavy swings in here, like across all of the characters.
Oh yeah,
but they added enough balance that I'm pretty happy with how it went.
I am too. Like a lot of times you see, a lot of times you see in these, these homebrews and things like that. It's for a lot of homebrewers, it's wish fulfillment. It's like, man, I really wish that I could also do this. Like, well, you can't do that.
I was the dragon.
Yeah, exactly. Dragonborn, you can do that already. Come on, man. Well, you can't do that for a reason. Like, there's a reason, because it was play tested 1,000 times. Yada yada. And you get that same feeling with this, where it's you understand why. How come I can't make 1,000 mechanisms? Well, yeah, because you have to maintain them. Like, there's a reason in the lore and the book alone that just says, like, a real quick snippet of, like, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. And there was another one where you can use your mechanical skills to basically buff a party member, but you can only have one every long rest, and it only lasts for 24 hours. So it's, doing the perfect math, you might have 2 up at once, like, or maybe 3, depending on, if you can do the math right. But it seems very, very fun, and I'm very much excited to see like a lot more people playing it, because it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, you and I had these 2 cool ideas, like, and then someone's going like, hey, did you know if you do this, you can just, if you put a bucket of water in one and then this in another, and all of a sudden you can make a bomb out of it. Like, no, I didn't think of that. How did you?
Because, like I said, when we both looked at it, we immediately became attracted to the things that neither of us normally are.
The exact opposite. And that was what was super exciting to me. Because I went in thinking, like, yeah, Barbarian sounds super cool. Just, let's do this. And I was like, yeah, it's cool. It's a cool Barbarian subclass. And then the Rogue was like, ooh. Like, it's not that I disliked the first one. I just liked the other one more. And something that did remind me that I thought about that I think will intrigue a lot of people. The Barbarian almost has like a Warlock Pact of the Sword. I think it is subclass to it, where when he rages, that's when he gets his weapon, and it's only there when he rages. He's like, just out of nowhere, like, oh, and then all of a sudden he's got his weapon. And I thought that was a really cool little piece of flavor, because it's part of your character. Like, I think you have to do like a full day ritual to make that like your weapon. If I remember correctly, I think it's, let's see. I have the thing pulled up right here. What did they call it? Oh, I went way too far. Now I'm in Mechanist. Yeah, ancestral weapon. Yeah. At the end of a trance that lasts a whole day, you touch a weapon and forge a link. Like, yeah. So, and I just thought it was a really cool idea where, you know, again, it adds a cool flavor to like a class that can be very bland sometimes for like barbarians are some kind of bland characters. Like, oh, what's your character do? Hit stuff. What else do you do? Yeah, no, I hit stuff. I do that a lot. So, yeah.
But with this one at higher levels, you can turn it on and off. That's the whole, like, that's why I felt there was so much flavor with this barbarian that it allowed me to do more of the role play, which is what I go after with the games more.
Right.
Like that when we play, you know, in playing, I'm always the bard or things like that because I like to goof around and I love being the neutral or chaotic character. But with the barbarian, it's that concept of this is not necessarily somebody who started out as just this gruff warrior. This is somebody seeking wisdom from the ancestors and then just became more powerful because it became part of them.
And I love that idea, especially because like I always love the thought process, you know, like you see it a lot of times in wizards, that they're you know, older, like they've they've got long gray beards, but they're level 1. Like they're like, oh well, I've been studying the arts forever. Oh cool, what level are you? I'm level 1. Like, oh okay. And like it really gives a flavor of like, you know, you're almost thrust into this life of like, well, okay, I'm this now, and now I'm coming to grips, and it's very easy to work into a like any sort of character, like an older character, or you know, even like, especially since, you know, like you said, it kind of starts with you dying, or possibly dying. Like you could use it. Like we've all had characters or players who have wanted to switch characters. Like, oh, you know, like I thought I'd like this, I don't like this. Like, you know, and you know, approach their way. Like, it's a really cool way to be like, well, I kind of want to play this. Okay, that literally starts with you having like, you know, a lot of stuff happen to you, and it works really well in that whole role play aspect and finding ways and reasons to do stuff. So,
yeah,
like
definitely awesome.
Yeah, I loved everything about it.
So that brings us to talking about the actual campaign itself.
Yeah.
Now, the introductory to the campaign, it's called it the Gates of Lusan. Now, your party, you're coming into the Exalted Vales on a ship. I won't give away too many things because you know you can try out the adventure yourself. But you come out there and then craziness happens.
Which I will say, some spot on like hook me into the world and make me want to play for, you know, turn a 4-hour session into a 5-hour session, a 6-hour session. Like it was very much a lot of like. It was never really felt like there was a huge lull, and that was a really like a huge thing for me.
Pacing was really good. It gave, as the GM point of view, it definitely gave you a lot of, we'll just say, easy access to the things that keep it moving. Maps
again,
were there. Those were really good maps.
They really were.
It was like really thought out as to how the campaign progressed.
Right, and there was again, like I brought up earlier, there's a lot of tactics to it, even from the GM side of things. They're like, okay, like in a lot of ways to reward your players for doing something that they may not have thought of, and like some things that are like almost felt a little semi-linear, but in a very good way. Like, you know,
right?
You usually throw the word linear around as like a bad word in an RPG. It's like, oh, it's very linear. like. And I'm not saying like 4 or 5 hours of like, you know, like, okay, you guys got to go this way. It was very much like maybe something that lasted 5-10 minutes, but hooked you in such a like enthralling way to like move to the next part. Like, and that felt, it wasn't like, let's say, like, it wasn't like, oh, your characters have to, you know, do this, and, you know, they can only do this way to do it. And it makes no sense why they would do that. Like, where the one things that had a very like like the intended, we'll say, like way to do it felt very in world, very like like very natural, like very ways to like oh yeah, no, my character would do that 100%, or like most characters would do that. It's not like, it's not like, oh, the only way to, like, to throw in perspective, I have been running an Avernus campaign, and there are a lot of very like, okay, you can only do this if you do this. It's like, well, if you don't have the right class, if you don't have the right mindset, you don't have it wouldn't work. And there have been some times where I've just to be like, okay, like, you guys gotta kind of do this and like slip in something to like kind of push in my direction. This, I never felt like I would have had to do that. It was very much like everything felt very
just felt organic.
Oh yeah, organic. That's the exact word. Yes. Sorry, I interrupted you. Keep talking about the campaign.
Well, I mean, like, so what I thought they did a really good job is starting to ease you into the world. Like early on, they introduce you to the Mechanist and kind of gear you towards going in a direction. And then from there, you see what could be the protagonist throughout the campaign, could not be. I don't know.
We don't. We really don't.
But it just gives a really cool start to it. Yeah. And it doesn't make you feel necessarily helpless, but it definitely gives the sense of, we need to move.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It gives that a lot from the very beginning.
And the fact that it definitely it gives, in case your party are murder hobos, then you can still save the story as a GM.
Yeah, there was a lot of ifs and thens and a lot of stuff that really help you like continue the story moving, which I really enjoyed, because there have been times where, like, I still don't understand why Wizards doesn't think that we're going to try to attack this guy the second we see him, but lo and behold, a lot of players do. It's just so nice to see, someone on the outside looking at it and be like, yeah, like, that's not a good way to do that. Let's do it this way. Like, that's a great way to do that. Let's do it that way. So really enjoying that with what I've seen so far.
So I will say you should absolutely take a look and download the PDF on the Kickstarter page. Try out the adventure. I really think you'll enjoy it.
All right. Oh yeah. And like, you'll notice in the bottom, like, it doesn't say, paid sponsorship. Like, we literally, they gave us this and said, hey, like, talk about it. Like, see how you feel. I loved it. Like, like, I can't, like, it's one of those things where I will definitely be backing it myself to a very like heavy extent to get like, Kickstarter is always fun because it's like, oh, like, I like the main concept of this, I'm going to put some money in. And, then a month later, they're like, hey, we unlock this. Like, I got like a whole nother thing. Like, I got a whole another 20 things. And I'm really excited to see, how this goes and to see more come out of it.
So I will say about this, I loved how bizarre it felt at first, but then it just felt good. And that's like what drove me to role-playing games in the first place, is because I felt giddy just being able to go into a brand new adventure, because it wasn't the generic that you find in a lot of the repetitious role-playing games and things like that. Everybody tries to carbon copy the last. This one didn't do that. And that's why I started role-playing in the first place, is because this felt like a brand new adventure.
Yeah, it definitely captures that
I haven't gotten to experience before.
Yeah, it definitely captures that like wonderment again. Because it's one of those things where it's funny because, you read the first couple pages and you're like, what? And then like a chapter and you're like, that's what happened to this world. That makes perfect sense. Yep. Yeah, people can only, people can only get, pregnant if they go out at a certain time at night on a certain day and stuff. You first read that, you're like, what? And then you read it again, you're like, yeah, no, manifestations makes perfect sense. Got it. Like, how did read it? It'll make sense.
Now, the cool thing about this Kickstarter too is the vast majority of the book has already been written, so it's not a matter of if it goes out. The team working on this did a lot of uphill work before the Kickstarter even started.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of artwork already made, books already written. The Kickstarter will mainly fund the production of the book. as well as getting new artwork and more of it.
Yeah.
So from here, just a matter of backing, and then I can't wait to play.
Oh, neither can I. Like, I am so excited to actually get my hands on this and play the full, like the whole 9 yards. I'm really excited. So,
all right, guys. Thanks for watching. You should definitely go to the link down below in the description. It is straight to Kickstarter, Exalted Vales by Inkplot. Back them, play it, and let's have some fun and support the tabletop community.
Yeah, especially nowadays with everything going on. So,
all right, guys. See you later.
Have fun.